ready? We're ready. Good evening and welcome to the May 9th, 2017 regular City Council meeting. Before we begin the meeting, let me review the process the public will follow to speak. Please complete an addressing council form located at the entrance to the council chamber. You may submit your form to either the city clerk or the sergeant-at-arms. After your name has been called, use the microphone at the lectern on the audience's right and state your name and home city or unincorporated county. You are not required to publicly state your home street address. Address your comments to the City Council as a body rather than as an individual member. Speakers may not borrow or assign time. Council may consider granting additional time to a person functioning as a representative of a group. The following time limits will generally apply. Speaking times may be varied. Public comments up to 3 minutes. Any item designated as a public hearing up to 5 minutes. Consent agenda up to 3 minutes for the entire item. Petitions, remonstrances, and communications up to 5 minutes. All other agenda items up to 3 minutes. An applicant, representative, or person who has legal standing to support or oppose a quasi-judicial matter such as site plan, plat, zoning, rezoning, conditional use, variance, building-related permit, or appeal, or abandon and vacate request will be permitted enough time as reasonably determined by the City Council to create a record before the City Council. Public comments will generally not be allowed on the following items: invocation, pledge of allegiance, roll call, approval of minutes, and adjournment. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll begin the invocation. If you wish to participate in the invocation, please stand. Please bow your heads. Lovingly, Heavenly Father, we come to you asking for your blessing and help as we gather together. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you will clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. May we always remember Memorial Day as a special day to honor our service members who lost their lives and to remember the sacrifices they have made in duty, honor, and country. Bless our military men and women who continue to serve to protect our country. Bless our police department and firefighters who protect our community from harm's way every day. Bless our country and our leaders, and we ask in the name of Lord Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. McEwen.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Moore.
Present.
Councilmember Minus.
Here.
Vice Mayor Debbie Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Meehan.
Here. Next is proclamation and presentations, and we have a presentation from John Pasco, the Families of the Shield, to present to the Mayor and City Council. And if you want to use that podium.
Good evening, and thank you very much, council members, and it's a great honor to be here. I thank you individually, Mayor Meehan, thank you very much. It's truly an honor, and thank you for your service and your support. Vice Mayor Debbie Thomas, thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Betty Moore, thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Tim Thomas, sir, it's an honor. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Yvonne Minus, thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Teresa Lopez, ma'am, thank you. Councilmember Paul Alfrey, thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. I thank each and every one of you, and special thanks to Councilmember Tim Thomas for helping put all this together and allowing us to come before and speak about a certain group of individuals who came before our country, put everything to a side, and had forgotten about what had been taken away from them and fought for one nation under God, indivisible, and with liberties and justice for all. That was the Navajo Nation. As you see, it was a time in our country's time that their language was forbidden to be spoke. But it is the same language that saved our nation, as you'll see. The nation, for many years, was forbidden to be spoken, and the descendants and their children were severely punished by speaking their native tongue. But yes, in the midst of the World War II, the young men and women willing to do whatever it took to fight for the maintaining the freedom and the liberties that we so greatly cherish. The same language that was once forbidden, the Navajo language, would be utilized in such a way that would be turned into a secret code, utilized by the military, and the only code in today's history that was never deciphered or broken. It wasn't until 1968 that the code was declassified and even acknowledged that it existed. It was great men like Samuel Tom Holliday, a United States Marine, World War II Navajo code talker, and men like him that helped win the war with their own native tongue and language that in point in history, that history didn't even want to acknowledge. With that, everything the Native American brothers and sisters endured throughout their years and still honored and cherished their homeland, the United States of America. The United States Marine Corps recruited 400 Navajo code talkers. It wasn't in 1942 that 29 of them were actually put into use and created the code, utilizing pieces of the Navajo code and through their own language created the language that would never be deciphered or broken. The rest, the remaining, would complete with about 400. There was 400 code talkers put into use. The Navajo language seemed to be the perfect option in code because it is unwritten, and very few people who were not of Navajo origin could speak it. However, the Marine Corps took advantage of the code to the next level and virtually made it unbreakable for further encoding the language of the words and their substitutions. First class Samuel Tom Holliday was one of the second wave of the code talkers and served in the 4th Division and served for the Battle of Saipan and elsewhere, and was a highly decorated Marine and earned a Purple Heart. In 2000, President Clinton signed it into law, which gave the code talkers Congressional Medal of Honor. It was the first 29. The remainder received the Silver Medal. It was back in 2014, our organization, Families of the Shield, decided to have a USO show. With that USO show, we would honor the first responders, police officers, and back-to-back, it was also Armed Forces Week. We looked around the country and we scoured the best talent come in, and we recruited Mr. Holliday to come in and be one of our guests of honor. Some of the members of the council attended that show and remember it well. He was a very humble man. At 90 years old, he spoke very well, very humble to his duties. It was during that we brought 2 other great men together. If you please turn aside. The second man I wish to bring forth is Command Sergeant Major William Ryan. Before this showing of the USO show, these 2 men have never met. They represented 2 different nations. They came together as one nation. They fought for liberty and justice for all. For you see, they put everything to a side, and whatever it took to get the job done, exactly what they did. Before the show, they met at a restaurant called Eddie's Diner, 55 East NASA Boulevard. We all had lunch together. We shared many stories. Actually, I did a lot of listening as they talked. My stories didn't compare. That was okay. During the service, both of them were recognized by Congressman Bill Posey with a special certificate of congressional recognition. The show ended, and there was many applause. The room was filled with many happy hearts, recognized 2 American heroes. Today, Mr. Holliday is not present, but Command Sergeant Major William Ryan's daughter is. And with that being said and done, she comes here to honor her father as well, continues to stand beside us as we recognize him. That itself is a great honor. Along with that, we built a monument in recognition of their services. It stands today at Eddie's Diner. We had a service on March 24th. Before that service, Congressman Bill Posey, March 8th, 2017, went before the House of Representatives and requested that that monument, its service members, its supporters, and its foundations and its location be entered congressional record. On that particular day, under the Congress of the 115th, the first session, it is now a congressional monument. With that, I'm truly proud and honored to say these men earn the greatest honor you could ever bestow upon them: our attention, our respect, and our pride. Would you please stand and give them your duty and a standing ovation to these great men?
Okay,
Congressman.
so,
Yes, sir.
Shannon, when you would grab the books and,
I also have some books here that have been signed by Mr. Holliday. Councilman Thomas, if you don't mind, can you help me pass these out, please? Along with that, on the screen that you'll see, the monument itself that sits in place, a coin that is part of the Big Red One, which Command Sergeant Major Ryan was a part of, the very part of the first wave that hit Normandy during World War II. Each one of these books have been signed by Mr. Holliday. And to every member, we would like to present the book and also a coin for their participation and recognition and their assistance.
okay,
Perfect. Thank you.
that should be one.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was very fortunate to participate in the ceremony honoring Command Sergeant Major Ryan. And I was one of many veterans that were participated, that were there and observed it. And it was just an honor, and it was inspirational. And as an retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, there's a thing that we have called Commander's Coins. And what we do is we present those for outstanding performance and outstanding mission accomplishment. And when John first talked to me about this project about 8 or 9 months ago, I was really inspired by his desire to really honor this fallen hero. And so, as a token of my appreciation for all the veterans that were there and how much it meant to them, what I'd like to do is I'd like to present him with a commander's coin. And what we do, again, we present these for outstanding performance. And a little bit of the tradition of the commander's coin is when I present this to John, if I ever see him out at Meg O'Malley's or whatever local watering hole he visits, if I go up to him and I take out my commander's coin and I put it down on the bar, well, he better pull his out and put it on the bar as well, because if he doesn't, guess what? He buys the first round, okay? So with that, I was really humbled, and on the coin it says, let's do the Army side first. It says one word that sums up the power of the Army, and that's HUA. And that kind of sums up how I feel about John Pasco, HUA. And on the flip side, it says battle with confidence, honor, and pride, United States Army. So John, again, as a token of my appreciation for all the veterans, thank you so much, and job well done. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. One more book. Thank you, John. Yeah, that was good, Tim. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, okay.
Thanks, John.
Okay, so proclamation for National Safe Boating Week, accepted by Jules McQuinn and Flotilla Commander. Good to see you again. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Proclamation, whereas in the city of Melbourne each year, more Americans choose recreational boating as an ideal way to relax with their families and friends. And whereas it is essential that both novice and experienced boaters practice safe boating habits, which include participating in a safe boating course, ensuring that the vessel has proper equipment, and that all passengers wear a life jacket, and avoiding the use of alcohol. And whereas every year hundreds of lives are lost in boating accidents, the number of fatalities could be reduced and boating made more pleasurable if boaters would exercise knowledge, care, and courtesy necessary for safe boating. And whereas the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary focuses on boating safety with emphasis on vessel safety examinations and public education. And whereas the South Brevard Flotilla 17-02 United States Coast Guard Auxiliary provides boating safety courses and vessel safety examinations. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 20th through the 26th, 2017, as National Safe Boating Week in the City of Melbourne, and encourage all citizens who use our waterways to take advantage of the programs offered and acquire the skills and knowledge essential to practice safe boating. Witness my hand and the seal of the City of Melbourne this 9th day of May, 2017, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor. Congratulations. Did you want to say a few words?
Yeah, sure.
Very good.
Madam Mayor, members of the Melbourne Council, we thank you for your continued support all these years. And to the residents of Melbourne, let me just very shortly say, I won't take much time because I know you got important business. Our territory, if you don't know, runs from Penina Causeway down to Sebastian. We do a little of everything, from teaching boating to rescuing people. Sometimes we do things that aren't very pleasant with boat accidents and things like that, fishing bodies out of the water. So we are very strongly involved with the Coast Guard. Tomorrow I'm at a big meeting at the station regarding the boat races off Cocoa on the 19th, 20th, 21st. We got the Coast Guard Eagle, the Coast Guard Academy, biggest ship in America, coming into Port Canaveral on May 31st. So a lot of things going on, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Okay, next is a proclamation for the National Public Works Week. Okay, Ralph, good to see you. Proclamation, City of Melbourne, Florida, whereas citizens in our community are affected in a positive way each day by public works services. And whereas the City of Melbourne Public Works and Utilities Department provides services such as streets and stormwater management, water production and distribution, meter services, wastewater collection and treatment, reclaimed water distribution, and environmental community outreach. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of our community greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vital, dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works officials. And whereas as the cornerstone of civilization, public works provides, maintains, and improves the structures and services that assure a high quality of life for our community. And whereas the mayor and city council proudly salute the qualified and dedicated employees in the Public Works and Utilities Department who play a vital role in providing essential services that keep our community connected. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor, City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 21st through 27th, 2017 as National Public Works Week in the City of Melbourne, and encourage all citizens, businesses, and civic organizations to recognize the contributions that public works officials and employees make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Witness my hand in the seal of the City of Melbourne this 9th day of May, 2017. Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor. Congratulations, Ralph.
Thank you for that, Mayor and Council. And I wanted to do something a little bit different this year. You think of the Public Works Week proclamation as perhaps not the most exciting thing that you might do as a city council. And I thought it'd be a really good idea maybe to put a face to what Public Works are really all about. And I invited a number of the Public Works employees, and in a minute I'm going to ask them to stand, but you've got representatives here from wastewater collections, from meter services, from water distribution, from water reclamation, from streets and stormwater, and water production. And I think I had some parks maintenance people sneak in as well, who I didn't have on my list. The reason I want them to be here, because I want to talk about them a little bit. The people that you're looking at out here in Public Works, we have people among them who work 3 shifts. They work holidays. They're away from their families. They work all night. They work on weekends. When there's an emergency, they answer the call. Some of these people work in the highest hazard environments that we have in city government. If you're a Melbourne City employee, the most likely to be injured are our police officers, because they get in a lot of scuffles and they'll hurt their knees or their shoulders or their backs. But the second most likely employee of the city of Melbourne to be injured on the job is a Public Works employee. They're out there in hazardous environments and harsh conditions. If you can imagine what it's like being out there repairing the street on a busy street in July in the middle of the afternoon, that's a pretty harsh environment. And a lot of times they get overlooked. And when I started to invite people about a month ago to come to this meeting, the feedback I was getting was, well, there wasn't a whole lot of interest in that, because these Public Works employees, they're not looking for a pat on the back. They're not looking for attention. They come in, they work hard, they do their jobs every day, and I don't know what we would do without them. I know that when I was holed up in the relative luxury of the police headquarters on Apollo during Hurricane Matthew, a whole bunch of these people were holed up on a slab somewhere out on Harper Road. Now, I was sleeping on the floor too, but at least I had a carpet. Hopefully most of you did. But they answer the call in emergencies. They answer the call in the middle of the night. And I don't know, we could have a big argument about who the heart and soul of the city is and make a case for a whole lot of different departments, but I know who the backbone is, and the backbone is the Public Works Department. And I would like to ask all of our Public Works employees who are here to please stand up for me. If you've been with the city more than 10 years, would you raise your hand? 20? 30? 29 and a half? Council members, I just wanted to give you a chance to recognize your employees.
Could I indulge everybody? Could you just wave and I'll just get everybody? It's good to see all of you. Thank you for coming, because we know you work hard, but we never get to see your faces and know who you are. So again, thank you for the service that you do for our city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you again. Item number 5 is approval of the minutes. April 24th, 2017, impasse hearing. April 25th, 2017, regular meeting. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of the minutes of the April 24th, 2017 impasse hearing and the April 25th, 2017 regular meeting of the Melbourne City Council.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval by Ms. Moore, second by Ms. Lopez, on approval of the April 24th, 2017 and April 25th, 2017 minutes. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. City Manager's Report, Mr. McNeese.
Thank you, Mayor Meehan. The one thing in particular I want to call your attention to that is on the report is this issue of item number 3, where we have our community development staff working on what we call a cleanup ordinance, some changes to the land development regulations. Typically, we don't advance changes to your land development regulations without direction from you in the first place. So the reason we bring this up is it's pretty much housekeeping, making things consistent, dealing with changes that have been made here and there to make sure they're where the references are connect to each other and that sort of thing. And so we call that to your attention so that when this ordinance for cleaning these things up comes back to you, you understand why we're in the land development code without direction from you. And certainly don't assume you have any objections to us doing that. Just try to make you aware of it.
Okay.
The other thing, I wrote you a memo the other day calling out some places where the city had been recognized for our partnership efforts. And Mr. Brisky was kind enough to bring tonight the award that his department received in Parks and Recreation from the Brevard Public Schools for the Not-for-Profit Organization Partner of the Year for 2017. He tells me they won this award among 200 nominees of the different agencies that partner with the school board for their work with the Play Date program that you've heard about over at Riverview Park, and some communication that they're doing jointly with the schools with their programming and communicating what they're up to. And Kevin brought this tonight so you could see it. I'll put it up here. He's here, and it was just a great thing to be recognized by the schools. Kevin appeared at it. I think they even fed him a dinner at a banquet the other night, which is even better.
Yep.
So just recognize him and his department here tonight.
Thank
for
you,
that.
Mr. Brisky, very much. All right.
That's all I have.
Anything else for Mr. McNeese?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mayor.
Ms. Minus.
If I just like to ditto on the city manager's report, the first item he has on there is the Police Community Relations Council meeting, which is this Thursday. Just like to also note that this will be the last meeting for our police chief, Steve Mims. And would just like to give kudos to him for the outstanding job he's done with the Community Relations Council and the community. This Thursday at 7 o'clock at Carver Park. If you are not busy, please come out and have a soda water with us, if you will. Okay, we're inviting everyone to come out. But like I said, this is his last meeting as police chief, well, forever, because he's retiring. Yeah, the council appreciates him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Minus. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Public comments, do I have any sign-up sheets? Okay. Mr. Eric V. Ellerbrock.
Did we know?
Eric V. Ellebrock, 1948 Tyler Avenue, Melbourne, Florida, lifelong resident. If anybody has any objections to what I say, I speak solely for myself. Come over to my house and tell me about it. All right, right off the bat, you know, normally when I start all these things, I respectfully ask maybe a minute's extension, but we'll see how that goes. Normally, you know, every time I have a plan of what I want to speak about, and then all of a sudden we get all these presentations and proclamations, and I want to point a few things out. The other day I was down at the boat ramp. You know, the secret boat ramp, the boat ramp that the city owns that doesn't let the city citizens use, you know, and the state was using that, and they were cleaning. That is a perfectly functioning boat ramp. I didn't know how good a shape that boat ramp is. Wow. After that proclamation about, you know, recreational boating and everything, I have a new mission. Every Saturday, when the boat line for the boat ramp out there at Ballard Park is all packed up and all these people are packed up on the city, I'm going to say, hey, there's a boat ramp right down the street here, but the city won't let you use it, even though we own it. Nice sign y'all got out there, by the way. You know, ooh, I'm having an ESP moment. If Florida Institute of Mass Destruction ends up owning that boat ramp, my head's going to pop off. I just can't, but I suspect down the road that Florida Institute of Technology might end up owning that. For some reason, they seem to pick up choice properties at discount, just kind of like the way the city did. But back to the boat ramp. Has it occurred to y'all? Okay, we already own the property. We're trying to sell it. Why? Can't we use that boat ramp at least? Because this summer, let's go down there. I urge every one of you, every weekend, let's go down here to Ballard and check out the amount of traffic that goes through those boat ramps down there. Okay, has it occurred to you possibly that it might be a good thing that if we have the city owns a boat ramp for the police, in case we need to get our spiffy new police boat in the water quickly, that we have a boat ramp that might, be exclusive for use for the police department might be a good thing, but why are we trying to get rid of it? We own it. For the money that you guys have spent getting the homeless off the streets, well, I'm not even going to go into that. We can puff up and refurbish that, and that's great property down there. That boat ramp is perfectly good. The state has been using it. Oh, by the way, the state boys tell me that they're going to be finished real soon cleaning all the muck and grub out of there. They're going to leave that boat ramp the way they found it, very clean, and they'll be done with it. And then it's going to sit unused while we've got citizens who are foiling and waiting in line to use the boat ramps that we do use. This just doesn't make sense. But real quick, something else just popped into my head. Do we actually hire a police chief named Gillespie? Am I the only one around here who watches movies? If this dude looks like Archie Bunker, I'm gonna stroke. But I hear he's a good, fine man, and I'm sure he brings a lot of experience and all that from Maryland, and, Baltimore and all that other good stuff. And I'm looking forward to see how that applies down here in the city. I haven't had a chance to talk with him. He doesn't officially take, but I'm looking forward to working. Of course, I'm never going to have the same relationship with any chief that I've had with Chief Mims, but we'll see. Gillespie? Never mind. I brought this up earlier. I'm going to bring it again. We got an airport board meeting the 24th. There's been some stuff going on nationwide that's reflected poorly on airports and airport authorities and so forth and so on. And I've been letting the airport stuff slide a lot recently. No more. We'll be attending that meeting. I look forward to seeing those who sit on the board there. Can't figure that out though. We've got people who sit on our airport authority board that don't live in the city of Melbourne. Wow. I can't understand why that, but who am I to say? Maybe it might be a good thing if we got people who actually live, a requirement that they live in the city if they're going to sit on a city board. Geez. Oh, that's right. The airport authority isn't really directly subordinate to the city, or are they? Sorry about that. Y'all have a great day. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ellerbrock. All right, I will close the public comments and bring it back to council on new business. Item number 8 is council action. Item number 8 will be engineering contract, construction contract award for Ballard Park Sidewalk Phase 1 project to Don Lucetti Construction, Inc. of Melbourne, Florida. Ms. Jenny Lamb.
The Ballard Park Sidewalk project was created in response to concerns about pedestrian and bicycle safety on Thomas Barber Drive going into the Ballard Park. We propose as part of this project that the installation of 800 feet of a multi-use path from Royal Palm Drive to the park entrance. Part of the reason that this project costs more than what you would expect a sidewalk project to cost is we have to install a retaining wall, and that retaining wall had to be installed to save as many trees as possible along that side slope there. If you drive into the park, you can notice there's quite a bit of elevation difference there. And then also this is an archaeologically sensitive area, and we did receive an exemption permit. We have had several people, one from the Florida Department of State, from the Division of Historic Resources, and also a consultant go out and look at this area, and they do not believe our sidewalk project will impact the archaeological site. And a budget transfer is required for this project. We had originally proposed the construction in next fiscal year, and we will have to transfer the money to construct it at this time. And the transfer will come from the Sidewalk Gap ADA Transition Program. And that project and that program was created to install sidewalk and curb ramps throughout the city. The sidewalk improvements typically made under that program are based on critical areas of need and documented residential requests. In addition to the sidewalk gaps, as I mentioned, it's the American with Disability Act. I said ADA without telling you what that is, although I suspect many of you know, to address the curb ramp deficiencies. Since this is a sidewalk gap within the city, we felt it was appropriate to use this type of funding for the project. So staff recommends approval of a budget transfer in the amount of $236,000 from the Sidewalk Gap ADA Transition Program into the Ballard Park project. And we also recommend award of the construction contract to Don Lichetti Construction in the amount of $235,611 for the Ballard Park Phase 1 project.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
I have a comment.
All right, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. This has been a long time coming, and many comments, many meetings by the residents of Ballard Park concern the safety of walking along the edge of the road with the number of boats that use that facility. So thank you for getting this moving along. And I understand this is the first phase.
Correct.
When can we expect this to actually begin?
The actual construction, I would say, would probably begin within about 6 weeks.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. Jeannie, again, thank you for your presentation. I support the concept of what we're doing there in Ballard Park. The concern I have is the budgeting process. I know there were some safety issues, obviously, that you mentioned. And I just, if there was a safety issue that was so paramount, we should have tried to fund this in this fiscal year. And now what we're trying to do is, we projected it for the next fiscal year, and this says we say we have to do it now, and now we're going to take from the other project number, which is a sidewalk gap, and then the ADA transition to try to make up the difference. And it's like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So I don't have a problem with the concept of what we're trying to do. It's the actual budget process that we didn't go through to identify this requirement this FY and fund it now instead of trying to pull it out of our backside now. So that's my issue with it.
Yeah, Mr. McNeese.
Thank you, Mayor. In Jenny's defense, those who were elected in the last election cycle won't remember this, but this was advanced at City Council's direction based on appeals from the neighborhood, and Council asked that it be moved up ahead and to find the money to do it in the current year.
I understand.
That was before you all were at the table.
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
as I understand, at one point, we had like $90,000 put aside for this at one point, and so we're just adding to this, basically. Am I correct?
We were looking at various funding sources, and at the time that I believe we reported to you, we could come up with about $90,000.
Yeah.
And since that time, that's when we found the remaining money.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
Jenny, was there many incidents or accidents that we're doing this now as an emergency?
We had a huge outcry from the residents. I don't believe there were any actual accidents that occurred. There have been, I won't say many, but several near accidents or very close misses, and that is what prompted us to move forward on that.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
So we take the $236,000 that's transferred over, then that's going to zero out the one project, the Sidewalk Gap program. So then what, I know several council meetings ago, we talked about acts of God. So, but God forbid, if we were to have some type of act of God and we needed that access to that money before we go into the budget cycle, then that money's not going to be there. Is that a fair assessment?
There's probably about $14,000-$15,000 left in that account, and we have already submitted our budget request for next year, and we've put in about $50,000 for next year in this Sidewalk Gap ADA transition program. And I do have a list of projects. They're not necessarily prioritized, but they're projects we're trying to work in. At least 2 of the projects have right-of-way issues, which is why we can't proceed forward with them, and other type of Sidewalk Gap projects.
Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Moore.
I recommend award of construction I move to recommend award of construction contract to Don Lucetti Construction Company of Melbourne, Florida, in the amount of $235,611 for the Ballard Park Sidewalk Phase 1 project, number 64817, and approval of a budget transfer of $236,000 from project number 64513, Sidewalk Gap ADA Transition Program, to establish the project budget.
A second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 8, as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Ms. Minus. Discussion?
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I can approve this because we had near misses, like she's saying, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Nay.
Oh, I'm sorry, and we have a nay by Mr. Thomas.
And a quick comment, I'd like this to go in the remarks, please, is I think it just should have been funded for 2016, 2017, and that's why I'm voting nay for it.
Okay. All right, item number 9 is consent agenda, items A through E. Mr. Thomas has removed B. So now I have A through E less B. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Minus.
I move for approval of the consent agenda from A through E minus B.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of consent agenda items A through E minus B from Ms. Minus, Vice Mayor, second by Vice Mayor Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Items 10B, Mr. Thomas, you're on.
Yes, ma'am. Again, I went out to both golf courses. Good afternoon. Evening. Good evening. I'll get it right here in a second. So I went out to both golf courses yesterday and looked at the nets, and it's truly an eyesore. But I guess the concern I have, it says here in the supporting documentation that that was caused by Hurricane Matthew, and then we're trying to recoup those costs for replacement through FEMA funds. And so I guess the issue that I have is, we're 8 months past, Hurricane Matthew hitting. So, how sure are you're going to get these FEMA funds? Because 8 months after the fact, and, we're going back and asking for replacement costs on a storm that hit 8 months ago, I don't think FEMA's going to approve that.
Well, I can speak to that directly. The golf course netting project was identified and was submitted to FEMA for consideration in late 2016 after post-storm. FEMA has confirmed that the project does qualify and is eligible, the project is eligible for reimbursement. This process that we bring forward to you tonight to qualify for those funds and to secure the FEMA funding, the answer to your question why it took so long was the process. The process for us to qualify and to secure the funds, we have to go through a FEMA authorized procurement process. We have a very solid process. The FEMA process took additional measures. So that is what really lengthened the process. FEMA procurement process to bid out the golf course netting project has taken most of the time, as we see here, as I said. And the bids submitted for your consideration tonight for this meeting do follow and meet the FEMA procurement process requirements. And again, those requirements are in place so we can secure our funding.
And the only other thing I have on that, Madam Mayor,
Yes,
is, again, it looks like if we get the FEMA money as well as the state money, so the city's left to pay, was it 6% of the cost that's remaining? And so I guess, I know, City Manager, sir, you have discussed in previous City Council meetings about, as we go through the next budget process, about ideas you have for the golf courses in the days of limited resources that we're in. And so would we be better off kind of shelving this for right now until we go through that budget process and hear what your plan is before we spend more money or know exactly how much more money we need to spend?
Look, given that the golf course is in operation and there's a safety issue related to the nets as well, it's not just aesthetics. Those nets are there to arrest the golf balls and keep them from doing the mayhem they're going to do when they get mishit, which is quite often. We're going to be facing claims and issues related to those errant golf balls, and this is really something we need to do. We're not in any consideration of shutting down the course at this point, so we're a long way from that, even having that conversation. So yeah, this is something you kind of have to do, and if we can get 75% FEMA and then 12.5% state, which leaves that 12.5% of the 50,000. That's a really good deal for us.
I tell you, when I looked at the nets out there, I mean, there's gaping holes, and I mean, they've been this way for at least 8 months, maybe longer, maybe pre-Hurricane Matthew. So, you've heard of the concept, little golf ball, big sky. People know when they're out on the golf course, they got to be cognitive of their surroundings and watch out. So I'm not buying the safety issue. And I tell you, anybody that's seen me play golf out on the golf course, not on a driving range, but just out on a tee, I mean, I hit the ball hard, but I slice it. So you better be paying attention because the ball is going to go everywhere. I don't care if there's a net there or not. Again, I think I think I have some issues until we can discuss in the upcoming budget cycle what's going to happen with the golf course, and we can decide from them, how much cost that we need to go towards that.
All right, Ms. Lopez.
I was also going to pull this item because I felt we haven't even decided what we're going to do with the golf courses, with all the problems we're having as far as their budget and how much money the city has been giving to make up the difference. So I understand where he's coming from, Councilmember Thomas. I also want to know where the 12.5 difference is coming from. Is it coming from the general fund or from the golf course fund?
Golf course fund.
Golf course fund. Golf course fund.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
any
you.
other questions?
You have a question?
Mr. Alfrey.
Okay, relating to the golf course budget for the year, how are we looking on, are we being in the black or in the red? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, city manager and I just went through our 6-month projections, and at this point, our net position is $70,000 to the good, to the black. We've had a pretty strong year, and we've had years like that before. We are going into our slow season. The summer season starts to slow down. And I do also say with as we're talking about a hurricane, the course was closed for a long period of time as well. So there's net revenues that we're actually working with FEMA on trying to gain those revenues lost for that period of time. Our net position at this point at 6 months is $75,000.
In the black?
Yes, sir.
That's for both golf courses?
Yes, sir.
Mayor,
All right, Ms. Moore.
we've worked with FEMA before, often. And unfortunately, we're that small little cog in the wheel, and FEMA doesn't jump because we need funds. And as I remember, at one point, it took us over 2 years to be reimbursed from FEMA. And that really is a safety issue along Lake Washington. And we've had to replace them in the past. I think it's probably been about 4 to 5 years. That's about what the life is. They take a lot of wind and they take a lot of beating. They're very large.
And part of our process pre-hurricane, to Councilman Thomas's comment about pre-hurricane, we take photos of all of our assets, and we did take photos of our golf course. Those nets were tight and ready with no gaping holes, and that's part of the process as after then with the photos and the FEMA representatives coming out, seeing the before photos and the after photos and the condition we do have. To speak to Councilperson Moore's comments about safety, that is our number one issue right now is safety concerns. We're fortunate in the driving range setup at Crane Creek as it goes out to the course. However, for Mallard's Landing, which is the netting that is significantly damaged. We border Lake Washington, and then there's a parking lot on the back side of the businesses that that are next to or on Wickham. And those cars that park in there are in significant jeopardy, and anybody that goes through there. Our net position right now, I checked our golf courses just for Mallard's Landing. We generate $60,000 worth of revenue on the driving range. Our net position right now after 5 months is $31,000. That's going, so we're halfway, more than halfway at halfway, and the course was shut down for a week and a half. And we've had to regulate, because of the conditions of it, we've had to regulate what type of use has been on the course.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
I don't know what's going to happen with the vote on the netting, but what I would recommend if the netting is approved, when y'all know there's a Category 3 or Category 4 storm coming in, maybe getting a cherry picker and taking the net down, because you know it's gonna get decimated. And I don't know how hard that would be. It looks like on the one golf course there's a golf cart trail that goes around there. You might be able to fit a cherry picker in, but that's what I'd recommend. The other thing I'd recommend too, if we do this, is, you know, I mean, $58,000, $60,000. Let's try to make it so our replacement plan, we're not trying to replace both nets for both golf courses in the same fiscal year. And I think that would lessen the burden of the city if we do that, if we stagger those, and instead of having them come out and we have to pay for all of them on the same fiscal year. So just some thoughts.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Moore.
I look at that a little differently, Councilman Thomas. You're asking for them to be removed. We don't remove them for nothing. We have manpower that cost us to remove it. That isn't a small job to do. That's a lot of footage there that would be to take those, particularly the one on Lake Washington, down, because it really wraps around. So if there's no further discussion, I would.
Mayor, I have one.
Okay, Ms. Lopez.
The 58,000, will that be used from the 70,000, or is the city going to advance the 58,000 until you get the refund?
Yeah, my understanding is the city would advance, and as we're in the FEMA queue for reimbursement, then we'd seek reimbursement from FEMA for that claim, which again has been deemed an eligible reimbursement.
Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Thomas.
Have you found that there's been a savings by purchasing both nettings at the same time versus if we did it separately 2 different years? Is there a savings? They give you a savings since you were getting 2?
Well, this was based on the FEMA procurement process. This was a national bid. Both of our nets were in fairly decent condition, so we weren't in the process for bidding out replacement. So to answer that question, I don't have a real solid answer. What I can say with regard to the bid, it's a national bid and it's a very, very competitive bid. We did look locally as part of the process. We did look locally just to obtain some local bids to see, and their bids were significantly higher than the 58,000 that you see before you today.
The only thing I would say then is, in the future, when this does come up again, check and see, in those bids, whether it's going to be more cost savings to do them both at the same time because they're giving us a special deal to, getting 2 at the same time, or if it is better to space it out, because that would be it.
All right.
Yes.
Mr. Alfrey?
Yeah, Madam Mayor. I will say something that Council Member Thomas brought up. It's actually not that crazy. Years ago, if you look on the interstate, after a hurricane, all the lights on the interstate would blow down. And they actually upgraded the lights to where they'll actually pull the bulbs down and you can look and they're on a roller. So that's actually not too off base, and it wouldn't be a bad idea if we could pull it off, to actually pull drop them down if a hurricane's going to come, because we may not be eligible or get the FEMA money next time. We can't guarantee that.
Right. Council Members Thomas' idea is being reviewed, and we're reviewing it on the installation, and it would mean the top rebar that goes through, that we'd have a connecting point, and they're all looped like a curtain rod. We could drop at one point and let them drop, and then let them sit at the halfway point, which
That's a
would
great
make
idea.
them less vulnerable.
And you'll be able to do that with the new nets, you think?
We don't know that yet. We'll meet and have that conversation with the installers.
I'd like to, if you could, just see if we could do that. I think that's a great idea. If it protects our assets, I'm all for that.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Minus.
I move for approval of consent item 10B.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of 10B by Ms. Minus, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion?
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
I'm really torn about this. I don't feel secured about giving that money now. I feel that maybe we should wait and decide what we're going to do with the golf courses. I know if we're going to sell them or do something with them, I know we have to replace the net without a doubt. But, I just don't know if we're wasting our money right now. That's all. And I'm concerned about it.
All right, Mr. Alfrey.
I will say, being in the liability business, that is huge, that I can guarantee if a ball hits a car, they're coming after the city of Melbourne. They go after deep pockets. So I don't like spending the money. And one more question, sir. If we hold off on this, then we basically can't go after the FEMA funds unless we purchase this, correct?
We have to go through this process, the procurement process.
Right. What I'm saying is we have to go to procurement, because we could actually, if we don't do this, we could possibly be out the FEMA money. Is that true?
Well, yeah, if we don't follow this procurement process, we will not be eligible for reimbursement.
The simple answer is, if you don't buy these, there is no reimbursement.
Exactly. Thank you. And that's what I was trying to say. So I'd have to support this, because if we can get the majority of the money back, absolutely.
All right.
Mayor, I'd like to call the question.
All right, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
I have a Mr. Thomas. Nay, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 11 is council action on Woody Burke. Let me get it right. Item 11. Woody Burke 72-inch storm pipe replacement project, Public Works and Utilities. Mr. Ralph, you are on.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. There's a 72-inch corrugated metal pipe that crosses Woody Burke Road north of Hibiscus for drainage purposes. This pipe has large holes in it due to a corrosion in the pipe metal. Recently, staff has temporarily placed a steel plate with asphalt patch and has been installed until a permanent pipe replacement can be completed. Utilizing the as-needed underground utility and excavation contractor services permits 3 quotes from the approved shortlisted local contractors so that the work can be done before the rainy season. Our lowest proposal came from Don Luchetti Construction in the amount of $114,756. The scope of the work includes dewatering, maintenance of traffic, the excavation, removal of the existing pipe, installation of a new concrete pipe, backfill, asphalt patch, concrete curb, and restoration. Funding has been identified in the local option gas tax operating reserves, and I'm requesting 3 actions. Recommend approval to establish a new capital improvement project. Recommend approval of a resolution number 3644 authorizing a budget transfer from operating reserves to the project. And then recommending approval to retain the services of Don Luchetti Construction Incorporated in the amount of $114,756 for storm pipe replacement under Woody Burke Road.
All right, thank you, Ralph. Any questions for Ralph? All right, seeing none, council, what is your pleasure? We have need to vote separately. Item number 11.
Mayor?
Ms. Moore.
For item A, I move that we recommend approval to establish a new capital improvement project for the Woody Burke 12-inch storm pipe replacement project number 64917.
Second.
All right, did you say 12
Did you say
inch or
12?
72?
It should be 72.
Okay.
Okay. I thought I heard 12 as well.
You,
Clean that out.
Well, that's real
that's
short.
a little small.
All right, yeah, very small.
How old
All
are you?
right, so you made the motion. Who seconded that motion? I heard several.
I'll second that. That's fine, ma'am.
Okay, so Ms. Moore approved 11A, and Mr. Alfrey seconded that motion. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 11B.
Mayor,
Ms. Minus.
I move for approval of resolution number 3644, authorizing a budget transfer in the amount of $120,000 from the local option gas tax operating reserve account to project number 64917.
Second.
All right. I have a motion for approval by Ms. Minus on 11B, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 11C, Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Thomas.
move for approval to retain the services of Don Lucetti Construction, Inc., utilizing as-needed underground utility and excavation contractor services for $114,756.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item 11C by Vice Mayor Thomas, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 12 is council action, approval for the annual renewal of the 800 megahertz radio maintenance Brevard County contract 3529. And here is Chief Mims from our Melbourne Police Department. Welcome, Chief Mims.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Glad to be here. Police and fire department radios require annual maintenance, and this item is we request approval of this contract. It's negotiated and maintained by the Brevard County, and we as radio backbone users and having our radios on that system have historically used their annual contract for our radio maintenance and the same vendor. So we're recommending or requesting approval.
All right. Thank you, Chief Mims. Any questions for Chief Mims?
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Chief, good. Great to see you up and moving around. Great to see you, buddy. Quick question. The last time you were here, I think you talked about the need, possibly, if we were to get a new police headquarters, of having a standalone EOC. Now, the radio sets that you need in that EOC, do y'all have those like identified? Is that a standalone that you don't use unless the EOC stands up, or is that something that you would need to eventually add into your projections and your equipment that you need?
The question about whether or not the Emergency Operations Center would need radio equipment depends on whether or not the Emergency Communications Center is cohabitated there. It's currently not. It's a separate room. The Emergency Operations Center would need a lot of equipment, but not necessarily radios. That would be contained in the Communications Center, and those types of consoles are reflected in this maintenance contract.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else? All right. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Ms. Minus.
I move for approval of the annual renewal of the 800 megahertz radio maintenance for the Police and Fire Department Communications International Incorporated, Vero Beach, Florida. Total cost $61,987.44.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 12 as stated in council's package by Ms. Minus, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 13 is a subdivision variance request, Mary Knoll and Elizabeth Knoll. And this is under community development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is a request for a subdivision variance on a 2.1 acre site to legally recognize the existing third lot without
Ma'am, I will call you up when we're under that public comments. Thank you. All right, Ms. Dittmer.
Yes, this is a request for subdivision variance on a 2.1 acre site to legally recognize the existing third lot without requiring the property owners to go through our subdivision platting process as it's required in Appendix D. The property is part of an original 3.34 acre parcel that was annexed into the city back in 2004. You can see on the map here, originally the yellow outlined area was the 3 acre lot. A previous owner back in 2005 subdivided the lot into what became lot 1 and 3, and then Lot 2, and that was a legal subdivision. You may subdivide your property one time. Then that property owner again subdivided it a third time for the creation of the third lot. And that by city code and by Florida statute requires a subdivision plating, or in the case of the city of Melbourne, there is a subdivision variance process that would allow an applicant to request to not actually go through what we normally see on a whole subdivision. It's much larger. In this case, there's infrastructure already existing for the 2 lots. Without the subdivision variance, the applicants would not be able to develop a single-family home on Lot 3. They would only be able to actually develop on one of the lots. The lots that have been subdivided will continue, they do meet our lot size requirements, all the dimensions for the REU zoning district that they are in, and they have frontage on the right-of-way there of Turtle Mound. And with that, the Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and staff would recommend approval of SDV 2017-01 based on the findings contained within the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? All right, seeing none. Disclosures are required. Any disclosures? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I have one sign-up sheet. Ms. Elizabeth Knoll. Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell you that my sister and I bought these properties about almost 3 years ago, separately from separate owners. And not until we, were retired and were able to start the building did we find out that there was somehow that we were not in compliance. We decided to build 2 houses adjacent to each other because we are both childless and we wanted to take care of each other as we got older. So we were very shocked to find that we had to go through this process, or that we were not in compliance. We bought title insurance. We did everything we thought we could do. Had attorneys look at it, and we were still shocked. At any rate, I thank you for looking at this and for considering it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Knoll. All right, so council, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
I recommend approval of SDV 2017-01 based on the findings contained within the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
A second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 13 stated in council's package by Ms. Lopez, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. All right. Number 14 is final plat on Emerald Palms. This is under community development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is a request for final plat approval on a 13.55 acre parcel for a single-family subdivision that's located on the east side of Holland Street on the south side of O'Galley Boulevard. The property currently has a medium-density residential future land use designation, allowing up to 15 units per acre, and is zoned R2. City Council did approve the preliminary plat for this property back in December of 2015. With the 38 lots that are proposed on this subdivision, the overall density is 2.8 units per acre, which is very consistent with the surrounding area and much lower than the 15 units per acre that's permitted by the land use. The minimum lot sizes will be 7,500 square feet with a minimum lot width of 50 and a depth of 100 that is allowed by the R2 zoning. There were 2 subdivision variances approved during the preliminary plat approval, and there is 1 additional subdivision variance that's requested with the final plat that would allow the placement of alternative permanent reference monuments that are consistent with the Florida statute allowance, but inconsistent with our code at this time. Since the time the council seed the preliminary plat and the construction plan approval process, the developer has installed most of the infrastructure and will be bonding any additional infrastructure that's not completed. The Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and staff would recommend approval of SD 2015-02 based upon the findings and conditions contained within the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum, including the 3 subdivision variances, the 2 that were previously approved with the preliminary plat, as well as the new request for the alternative permanent reference monuments.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I see there's going to be a private gate there, electronic gate going up and down and so forth. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. I remember one development that had a private gate and the post office would not deliver there for whatever reason. They stated that they don't always deliver to these type of situations where there's a private gate. Do we know if they're going to have that same problem? Because I know the HOA afterwards had to build mailboxes.
I'm not aware of that ever occurring. We have a handful of gated communities in the city of Melbourne, and the post office delivers in all of those on the private streets.
Because I did have a complaint about that. I think I went to McNeese, and it was told that they just don't do it in certain private gate.
It's the first I've heard that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we should just make sure that when we have a situation where we have a gate, that we make sure with the post office would not have any problems delivering mail to these residents.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Moore.
I think that would fall upon the developer to solve that problem, basically not us, unless I'm wrong on this.
Mr. Jake Wise is out there, so maybe he'll clarify it under public comments. All right. Any other comments from Ms. Dittmer? All right, seeing none, disclosures are required. Any disclosures? This is a public hearing. I have no sign-up sheets, but Mr. Wise, did you want to make a couple of comments on the mailbox issues? And it's good to see you.
Sorry, I didn't fill out a speaker card. I'll fill one out before I go.
Okay.
Jake Wise, business address is 2651 West O'Galley Boulevard. Actually backs up to this subdivision. The way we design all subdivisions now, and it's been that way for years, the Postmaster General of Florida now requires group mailboxes. They don't no longer allow new subdivisions to go with individual mailboxes to each house. So that's how they handle it now, is with group mailboxes.
Okay.
And that burden does fall on the developer.
Okay, good. So you are going to have something that will have the delivery done instead of going to each individual residence then?
That's
Thank you.
correct, yep.
All right. Any other questions while Mr. Wise is here? All right. Thank you very much. I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Madam Mayor?
Ms. Moore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have one
Oh, yeah.
comment I'd like to make. In addition to a motion for approval of the subdivision and with the variances, we'll also need the motion to approve the termination of easement agreement.
The terminate of what agreement?
Say that again.
There's
for
a
us, please.
termination of easement agreement that's referenced in the material. The motion will also need to address the approval of the termination of easement agreement.
Where? I don't
see
have that.
It's not
Where
on
is?
here.
It's listed as condition D in your package.
Not part of the
All
On
right.
page
Oh, hey,
195.
Did you find it?
Yeah, on page 195, condition D, the determination of the existing sewer easement shall be recorded in conjunction with the final plat. Is that sufficient, Ms. Dolly?
I would like it separated out as a motion also to approve the termination of easement agreement.
All right, so take it out of the condition.
No, it can stay in the condition. It's just that also you need to approve the agreement.
I'm a little confused, but I'll try.
All right, where's the agreement in here? Is that included in our package, the agreement?
No, it's not.
Oh,
No, it's
okay.
not.
Okay, then I'll be bringing that back to you. Thank you.
Okay, so
All right.
you only want us to then,
You can go with the recommendation and just approve the plat with the
With the conditions?
subdivision variances, I guess.
okay.
All right, and so by second reading, you'll bring back the
There's no
agreement?
second reading on a plat approval.
Oh.
I'll just bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Will that hold it up in any aspect?
I don't know.
Pardon?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, then I'll move to recommend approval of SD 2015-02 based on the findings and conditions contained within the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 14, as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Moore.
Going back to what our city attorney has said, it is addressed under conditions. The last item, the determination of the existing sewer easement shall be recorded in conjunction with the final plat. Is that what we're dealing with?
It's the fulfillment of that condition. So I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right, item number 15 is ordinance number 2017-23, Palms at University. Miss Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by granting a conditional use to allow a multifamily residential use in a C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district on a 4.06 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of University Boulevard, east of Leonard Weaver Boulevard, and west of Grant Street, providing for site plan approval, providing for conditions of approval, providing that the property shall be designated on the official zoning map by the symbol CC1, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development, Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance for conditional use to allow multifamily in a C1 zoning district on a 4.06 acre parcel. Additionally, the request is for site plan approval on the same parcel. The property is located on the south side of University Boulevard, east of Leonard Weaver Boulevard, and west of Grant Street. The property currently has a mixed-use future land use classification. The applicant is proposing to develop a mixed-use project containing 60 multifamily residential units that would be identified as affordable housing for elderly and non-elderly disabled residents, along with a proposed future commercial building, as you can see on the site plan there that's in the blue to the front. The proposed building height is 35 feet, 3 floors of residential, and the site proposes a total of 95 parking spaces that will be utilized both for the residential and the commercial uses. The surrounding area consists of a mixture of various residential uses, both single family and apartments, as well as institutional and commercial uses in the surrounding area. The Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of these requests, and staff would recommend approval of ordinance number 2017-23 with site plan approval SP 2017-03 based on the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
I have a question.
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
Okay, this development is going to be for senior citizens and also non-elderly disabled residents. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this is also 3 floors. Are you going to have an elevator there?
My understanding is that they are, but the applicant is here this evening, and I'm sure they can provide you that detail.
Okay.
Mayor,
wait a minute.
excuse me.
Ms. Minus is next.
Yeah, is this, I heard you say affordable housing, is it just affordable or is it low to moderate income? I think I saw it before on the other paperwork, it was low to moderate income, so is that the same?
There's several categories that would deem a project affordable housing. The intention of the Melbourne Housing Authority is very low and low income persons that would be eligible for this housing.
Okay, so is that 2 separate categories?
Very low,
moderate, and then affordable?
Low. It doesn't even go up to moderate level. It's very low income and low income.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Moore.
I believe this has to be built to federal standards. Am I correct on that? Because it will be federal money that will be used in this?
I would ask the applicant that question. I don't know the answer to that.
I would like the applicant
Okay,
to
I
come
have
up.
Steve Monroe, the engineer of record. Can you answer these questions? Or Michael Bean? Oh, yeah, hold on. Disclosures. Do I have any disclosures?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Mr. Alfrey?
Yes, I received a phone call today from former Councilman Greg Jones around noonish, and he just called regarding support for this project.
Okay.
Same here.
All right, and Mr. Thomas, same. Ms. Moore?
Excuse me, I did also, only it wasn't for the support of the project. It was concern that he had heard about what would go in on the commercial aspect of the building.
All right, I talked to Mr. Bean about that 5,000 square foot retail space and wanted to know what their objection was on who was going in there, because I had concerns about hangouts and stuff. So
Right, that was mine also.
He was talking about possibly a barber shop and something else, but no food, so.
Okay. Mayor, I emailed the office to set up an appointment or a meeting with Mr. Bean to meet at the NAACP. So that was the contact that I had. Okay, with them.
All right. Mr. Bean, I just need a name and city.
Certainly, Mayor. I'm Michael L. Bean. I'm the Executive Director of the Melbourne Housing Authority, 1401 Guava Avenue. This extremely low income is public housing. Public housing won't be on this site. Low income and moderate income is our Section 8 program. So we will be accepting Section 8 program eligible people for this site. During the planning and zoning, we had a question about the age brackets. We have to abide by the fair housing laws. So our age bracket is going to be 62 years of age for elderly, and then anyone with an eligible disability for the program can be of any age, and we can't discriminate against those folks.
Okay, so are they going to be mixed in with the elderly, right? They could be
There's
next
a
door.
potential
So
for that, yes.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
what about having an elevator for the disabled and also the elderly? Some of them, I'm sure, won't be able to go up 3 flights of stairs.
You're absolutely correct. We will have 2 elevators.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Minus?
I'd like to ask about the security there. I know there are several other housing projects, if you will, that's there that have a lot of problems. So yes, this is seniors and elderly, and we got our grandkids and the great-grandkids that may be coming over to visit. So do you have any security that's going to be in place to help deter that and, just to make sure that everything is secure there?
Certainly. Again, this won't be a public housing property, and it won't be federally funded. The commercial piece may be federally funded. I haven't determined the funding stream for that particular building yet. We do have security. We hired an architect that has a vast amount of experience in developing these type properties, and there's security measures built into the design component of it. For instance, the lobby, you have to walk right past our staff offices to come into the building, and then we will have card slots available for the other building doors that will be locked at all times.
Will the staff be there 24/7, or are they a 9 to 5?
It'll be a 9 to 5 development for us.
Okay, so after hours, then you'd have to have your key to get access?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, there was.
Ms. Lopez.
I believe you had a question about the commercial building that's going to be there. You mentioned that it's going to have support services. What does support services mean? Are you going to have a medical clinic there or something?
Well, for purposes of this meeting, it's a spec building, and we don't know, we haven't identified what will go in there. We have hopes that it will be services that will be utilized by the 60 new units, the people who live in there. And then we have public housing across the street and in the area there. But our hopes are to attract businesses that will service those folks there. And the Melbourne Housing Authority does have use for up to about 50% of that building. Whether they opt to do that once we have permission to build it is up to my board.
Well, tell them they have to have bingo there.
We'll write that down.
Great idea.
Legally, okay, all right, because
Right.
that is gambling.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? All right, thank you, Mr. Bean.
Thank you.
Steve Monroe, you signed up. Did you want to speak? The engineer of record?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Monroe. I'm Vice President of Engineering for ME Construction, MEC, and I'm the engineer record for this project. I prepared the plan you have before you. Be happy to answer any questions you might have on that.
All right, Mr. Monroe, any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Ms. Lopez.
Recommend approval of ordinance number 2017-23 with site plan approval, SP 2017-03, based on the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of item number 15 as stated in council's package by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 16, council action on ad valorem tax exemption revocations amendment 16A. I guess this will fall under, we got three ordinances, so we'll read them separately, but we'll read them together and vote separately.
Okay. Ordinance number 2017-24, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, providing for the repeal of ordinance number 2012-28, which granted an economic development ad valorem tax exemption to Nuance Communications Corporation, adopted as confidential project speak, making a finding that the business has not fulfilled its employment and capital investment commitments represented in the ad valorem tax exemption application, making a finding that the business has not filed the required annual report to the city, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule. Ordinance number 2017-25, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, providing for the repeal of ordinance number 2015-29, which granted an economic development ad valorem tax exemption to Erconia Corporation, making a finding that the business is not able to fulfill the capital investment commitment represented in the ad valorem tax exemption application, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule. Ordinance number 2017-26, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, providing for the repeal of ordinance number 2016-28, granting an economic development ad valorem tax exemption to Thales USA, Inc., making findings specifying the items exempted, providing an expiration date for the exemption, finding that the business meets the requirements of Florida Statute Section 196.012, providing for proof of eligibility for exemption, providing a requirement for an annual report, providing an effective date, and providing for adoption.
Thank you, Ms. Allison Dolly. This is under Community Development, Ms. Cindy Dimmer.
Yes, this is a request to approve three ordinances based upon staff's findings of the ad valorem tax program's annual report, which council received previously. This information was based on the information that was submitted by the companies that are currently receiving tax exemptions through the city's ad valorem tax exemption program. We currently have 8 businesses that are active with exemptions, and all 8 of those were reviewed by city staff. Of the 8, staff did find 3 businesses that do require city council action, and that's the 3 ordinances you have before you this evening. Ordinance number 2017-24 related to Nuance Communications. They had failed to file an annual report and have been unable to do the building component of what they had originally thought they were going to be able to do. They have brought in 74 jobs into the city, but we will be recommending to revoke going forward the exemption for 2016 forward for their business. The next ordinance related to Erconia Corporation. Orconia had intended originally to build also a new building. They instead located in an existing building, so the real property component of this project isn't going to occur, and based on that, the benefit of the tax exemption would be very small, and they decided not to go on through the process. They have, however, brought 35 jobs into the city, so their ordinance will revoke the previous tax exemption granted them. And the third ordinance for Tallies USA, they also made a decision not to build a new building. However, they have plans to locate and continue their expansion efforts at an existing building that is located on Hibiscus. So they are seeking an amendment to their tax exemption. So this ordinance is a little different. It's revoking the previous ordinance and providing a new tax exemption at their new location. However, the tax exemption will only be on the tangible personal property. Because they're not building a new building, they won't be qualified for anything related to the capital real estate investment. Just an update on Tallis, they have not even moved into this new building, but they've already started their expansion. They've already hired 71 jobs of the 327 new jobs that they have projected that they'll bring into the city. They retained 271 jobs in the city of Melbourne with this tax exemption request, and the salaries that they told us a year ago to be $64,000 as the annual salary, their annual salaries are actually in the $94,000 range. So Tallis is headed in the right direction. This ordinance is really to change the location of their tax exemption. So with that, staff would recommend approval ordinance number 2017-24, ordinance number 2017-25, and ordinance number 2017-26.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
I have one.
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
Do we verify the hiring that they're reporting on these reports?
We verify a statement that is sent to the city from the company.
So we don't actually check personnel records to make sure that their statement is correct?
They provide names and attest to the accuracy of the numbers that they report to the city.
Okay. Another thing is, do we get any money back from the taxes that we allow them not to report or pay?
Which taxes are you referring to?
In other words, they invested a certain amount, or supposed to have invested a certain amount according to each separate agreement, and also the hiring as well. So because of that, I assume that we gave them some tax relief. Is that what this is all about?
It depends on which one you're referring to. In most of these cases, they didn't make a real estate investment, so there were no new taxes. There were no taxes to exempt because there was no new building built.
Okay, so you're saying that we didn't give these three companies any tax relief whatsoever?
No, let me clarify. So our Nuance Communications, there's a spreadsheet at the that was attached to the ad valorem tax abatement program. Not sure if, I think it's in your package this evening as well. No, okay.
I don't see it. I don't have a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I apologize. It was the back page of the ad valorem annual report that was sent to you, but
I got it.
Yeah. Basically, Nuance is the one company that did receive approximately $5,000 in tax abatement over the last 2 years.
So do we get that money back? Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
There is the ability per city code for the city to go back and collect, and I'm trying to think of the right legal word, but go back and collect the $5,000 that was exempted from the company previously.
Okay.
I will note that that company did bring 74 new jobs to the city. They just did not follow through on the capital construction of a new building. They did have some exemption in the personal property, the equipment and things of that nature, yes.
Okay, so if they don't fulfill all the requirements on the agreement, we would get our money back, is that correct?
If council would like to seek reimbursement in Nuance Communications.
Or any of them that did not abide by their agreement, basically.
Well, the other two have not received any tax exemption.
Okay, no, but I mean in general, as a policy, if any corporation that's coming to this city and doesn't abide by the agreement of what they stated they're going to bring to the city, let's say tangible investment, capital investment, personnel, hiring, if they are 2 or 3 years already established and do not fulfill what is stated on the agreement, do we get our money back? Is there a policy for us to go back and retrieve that money that we exempt them for?
Yes, there is a process to do that. We review this every year with City Council.
And we do get the money back?
If council requests that we go through that procedure, we have not done that previously with any of our tax exemptions.
All right, Mr. Alfrey.
Yeah, I think what Councilwoman Lopez is indicating, she's actually got a good idea. If we broker a deal and we say, and we give you an exemption and you come in as a corporation and we expect you to fill so many jobs or whatever, the idea of this agreement is at the very end, you get the exemption or whatever the contractual agreement is, but if you don't, I almost think you're getting off scot-free. Why not just make the agreement? Because if I just make the agreement and I don't make it, I'm not going to really have those back, payments that really due. So actually, I have to kind of support that if we're going to broker agreement, then if they don't meet the agreement, then that's something that we need to kind of discuss about going back and getting, the taxpayer money. Just a thought.
But this company provided jobs.
Yes, 74.
74 jobs. So how do you equate that?
So they've been exempted $5,000 the 2 previous years for the 74 jobs that they brought to the city.
All right, Mr. McNeese.
Yes, let me be clear. There are never, and Cindy, stop me if I say anything is not correct, there are never abatements given until contractual commitments are met.
Correct.
In some of these cases, there are multiple commitments. In this case, as Cindy's saying, there was a commitment to hire a certain number of people. There was another commitment to make a certain amount of capital investment. The employees were hired. I don't know, was it 100% of the employees they promised or a portion?
It was 74 of the 115 they projected.
They wouldn't have gotten their full abatement. They would have only gotten a prorated portion based on what they actually did. So the fact that they're not now pursuing their full abatement because they didn't make the investment that this all was wrapped around in the beginning, and they didn't hire all the people. Now what you're saying is, should we go back and get reimbursed for the abatement that they did earn, I'll use the word earn, by hiring a certain amount of people? And I think what Cindy's saying is your policy allows you to do that. The question is, do you want to do that? If they worked in good faith and got 74 employees hired, they're getting that prorated portion of their abatement. They're not getting the full abatement that they would have gotten had they made all that investment, because if they didn't make the investment, there were no new property taxes generated on that.
And it's still the full abatement each time. Almost all of these companies, they don't year one hire 300 employees. They're all typically over a phased process. So you have to look at the first year, they're not typically expecting to hire, I'm just using numbers, but 300 new employees the first year. You're typically going to see them hire 100 of the 300. And in this company's case, they've had 2 years as their employment has increased, but they have not achieved the number of jobs that they had originally indicated.
Madam Mayor?
Right, yeah.
Mr. McNeese, that's actually a very good summary. I can tell you no business comes in to think, hey, I only want to do 74 jobs. They would like to have 5,000 jobs. So, you know, I could see where council has that ability, but if they're actually making progress, that's a very good summary.
Mayor? Ms. Minus.
I think a good example of that would be Embraer. I remember a couple of years ago, they were doing theirs like in phases. So do we have any kind of update? Do we know? Because they were doing, I think, it in increments also. They were a very good example of that.
Embraer is working Project Summit on the same type of phasing in of employment.
Right.
Okay. Do we know what the progress is? I mean,
Yeah, that was one of their.
Yeah, it was in the report. Let me find it for you.
5.
Right.
To continue in the package.
Right.
Yeah.
So they hired 175 of the 600 net new employees that's projected.
okay.
Mayor?
Are they on target with their projection? Is that per year?
Yes.
They are, okay. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Lopez.
Yes. How do they work the capital investment part of it? Do they continue paying their real estate taxes until they meet that capital investment?
So that,
Or
just to clarify, so let's take an example of a company coming in and building on a vacant piece of property and building a new building. They're going to build that building first because they've got to have some place to put their employees. So they may start out year one, they've made their capital investment fully, and that becomes fully exempted depending on whatever their allowance was with their tax exemption. That becomes exempted that first year. It's really a second year into that. But they may actually be on year one of phasing in of employees. And so that's why we have to look at them each year to see that they're making that progress. They actually, when they have state incentives, they actually are on a phasing in plan with a certain per employee each year that they're indicating that they intend to hire.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I think the city staff did an excellent job on the annual ad valorem tax exemption report. And the other thing I'd just like to highlight that's in your report, the 4 businesses that met their stepping stones, Vision Systems, Northrop Grumman, Embraer, Harris. I mean, the city definitely got its return on investment with those. And I'd also just like to say on Northrop Grumman and Harris, you know, Congress just approved, I think it was a $15 billion increase in Department of Defense spending. So you can bet your bottom dollar some of that's going to come back to Northrop Grumman and Harris. So that's probably going to continue to grow here in the future. So great job on your report.
All right.
Be great for Highline.
Yep. All right, anything else? All right, so council, what is your pleasure? We'll vote separately.
Mayor?
Ms. Minus.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2017-24.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number, let me get right to it, 2017-24 by Ms. Minus, second by Vice Mayor Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 16B, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Move for approval of ordinance number 2017-25.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2017-25 by Vice Mayor Thomas, second by Ms. Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Items number 16C, council, what is your pleasure?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
recommend approval of ordinance number 2017-26.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2017-26 by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Minus. Discussion? Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 17 is petitions, remonstrances, and communications. Council, do we have any?
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
I have to stand up to do this.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Debbie Thomas, filling in for our mayor, and myself went to National Habitat for Women. We have 2 houses on Cedarwood that are built exclusively by women, and they're absolutely fabulous, and they were celebrating National Week. And we were very proud to be a part of this, and we look for many more. 2 young ladies with their families are going to be moving into these houses very, very shortly, and I think it is wonderful that they built, all women built on these houses. Yeah.
Touche.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Moore.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah,
Yeah, can I have
Mr.
the floor?
Alfrey.
Yes, I'd like the floor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay. You pass that down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you would pass those down. I'm actually, as a councilman, I'd like to issue you a report. And actually, if possible, and this will also be for staff as well. And anybody would like one, and I'd like to go over this. Okay, first off, I want to just state that one of our reasons for being here is for checks and balances. It's for physical accountability. And I'm going to submit to you an issue that I would actually, the reason I'm bringing here in the sunshine, I need some assistance with it for council, please. Okay, this is regarding the roof issue for the Honor America Liberty Bell Museum. As a Florida certified roofing contractor and home inspector, I'm bringing these issues to you so again, we can get resolved. A quick timeline, if you'll check on page 2, this is regarding a roof repair that was done on a city building that was brought before council in February 2015 in the amount of $30,000. In April 15, the roof repair was completed despite no estimates or bids, scope of work, et cetera, and no permit on evaluation of a job of $30,600. 2 invoices was submitted from Honor America totaling $30,600, which is the city paid half. I've been told by several board members that the roof continues to leak. And because of this, I actually went and inspected the roof and took photo documentation and met with the city administration on March 27th. And in a moment, I'll get into these findings, et cetera. A letter was then received from the city attorney's office from Honor America indicating that there was no problem. I guess the scope of work valued at $30,600 had come into question, but that's not an issue. $30,600 was paid. Now, ever since then, I brought this up to the city management. The issues were a few things. First off, a permit should have been pulled, which it wasn't. The city staff did a great job. They got back on it. I'm very impressed with them. I really am. Where I'm going with this is the building permit that was secured last month from the contractor shows the valuation wasn't $30,600. It was only $14,800. So basically, we got $15,800 missing out there that our council approved back a couple years ago. And that, to me, is about following the money and being physically responsible for our constituents. I spoke with the building official yesterday. He indicated that he's given the contractor numerous attempts to justify the additional work that was done, which he can't. So the reason I'm bringing this forth to city council is for a few reasons. Now, if we'll go to page 3, you'll look at real quick summary on the structure and roof system of the Honor America. You have the roof has 4 different, I guess you would say, levels. You have a tile roof, you got a flat deck roof, you have a dome roof, and of course you have a shingle roof. Now, if you check on page 4, of course the roof problems, it was leaking, it did need repaired, and it was brought before council that again 4 of you approved this motion. Now, on page 4 are the 2 invoices submitted, and the issue also starts with the second invoice that was submitted and paid to the city. Basically, the second invoice was billed at $14,900 for simply applying a second coat of paint and some fascia work. So basically, to sum it up, kind of painting your driveway for almost 15 grand, which is not correct. Now, another issue that we have is the inferior workmanship that was done on this. Again, we have to protect our assets. We have policies and procedures for a reason, and when they break down, things like this happen. But if you check, for example, a permit should have been pulled initially on this. And if you look, one of the reasons it wasn't pulled, well, first off, if you look where the tile roof was done, they didn't even properly flash the wall. Upon inspection, if you look, there are broken tiles. Page 5, again, tiles left on the roof. And one of the biggest issues on page 6 is what's called a fancy name is hydrostop. It's basically a paint. It's like a 2-part process with a base and a cover. Well, this whole decking is going to continue to leak because it was installed improperly. And if you look at it's almost like a blister. It's starting to blister already, and the paint's already peeling. So if you look even on the initial inspection last month, none of the gutters were clean, etc. Really, it's a very disappointing job. On page 8, if you look at the work invoice completed, for example, the invoice, they billed the initial invoice for $15,800. They state in the invoice, install hydrostop roof recovery system on southeast small flat. Sounds like a pretty good job. But if you look at page 8, it's a little section about 1 foot by 3 foot. That doesn't justify the job. Now, again, meeting with the city management and especially the building department, and I have to give kudos to them. They were on this and they've been working hard. The permit pulled after the fact, almost a year later, even shows that the contractor wrote down full price of the roof, $14,800, with the full scope of work. Again, the building official has been very generous to give him a chance to justify this work, but he hasn't. Again, that's $15,800 of our money sitting out there that we can use for other stuff, okay? So again, now, of course, there was a response for Honor America, and I will say about Honor America, they're a great organization that's done some wonderful things, but part of this money that was taken is their money too. If you think about it, if we agreed to split this bill with Honor America, even though it's our building, then part of that money is there as well. Now, after the building permit was pulled, I did re-inspect the roof, and I looked at a couple things, and they did go up there and clean the gutters, and they actually caulked a tile. That's on page 11. But I think you look at page 12, I think my 9-year-old daughter could paint better than this. I mean, that is just unacceptable for such a nice building. Now, our fiduciary responsibility to our constituents, as on page 13. Again, the contractor's been given ample time to justify the overpayment of $15,800. However, it has not done so since yesterday. It's my recommendation to our council that, we actually try to recover the $15,800, and half of the money comes back to the taxpayers at $7,600, and the other half to honor the initial council agreement, that Honor America gets their $8,200 back. I think that's fair. Now, on the summary, this is tough, but we're here for a reason, and we're here, again, some of the things we do, we make tough decisions. And a few things. Number one, our internal emails suggest that we had much lower bids to do the roof. I spoke to a contractor who did go out, that was there, that inspected the building, that actually pointed some stuff out. His initial estimate of doing the whole job, $15,000. But again, $30,600 was paid. To me, we don't need to be bypassing the bid process. And I know our staff, and I'm confident of the great staff that we have. They're not looking to bypass anything. They do their job every day. They do a great job. At this current time, we have a failing roof, and we have no warranty information. How are we made whole? What are we going to do now? Are we going to come back as council and approve more money? I'm not. But again, we have no warranty information on this roof, and it's one of our assets. To me, that's important. Now, a couple things. What do I want from here? 3 things. First off, I want the taxpayers to be made whole. I want that money to come back, and I would instruct our city staff to do the best job they can to try to get that money back. And again, give half of it back to Honor America. I have no problem with that. That's number one. Number 2 is that in the future, in a situation like that, we don't bypass the bid process. Again, I don't think it's intention of our staff whatsoever to bypass any kind of bid process. And for third, the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're in the sunshine, and I have to, and Councilwoman Moore, she is the president of Honor America. And my thing is I need to speak to her regarding this, so it has to be in front of council. And I would like assistance from Ms. Moore as being the president of Honor America to help us try to get this money back.
Have you finished?
Yeah, for the moment. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Who would you like me to get this money back from?
The contractor.
There is, I finally, from the Lewis Barnhart Roofing, I got he just turned this in and also gave a warranty on it in the last, I dropped it off this past week to our city attorney. There were 3 bids that were put out to roofers. One was too high, we couldn't afford. The next bid was a roofer who would do the roofing work but would not do the concrete work and the rebar roof around the edge.
Yeah, it's just simple stucco, yes.
Of the building. He needed to hire another contractor to do that. And so, you know, as I say, this roofer, Lewis Barnhart, had done roofing for the museum for a long time. We certainly trusted him. He's a responsible roofer. And so that's how we went with it. The director at that time of the museum was the one who was working with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so our roof is not leaking at the time. Our roof is not leaking. Unfortunately, without casting stones, one of the existing board members who contacted you was not speaking for the full board. She was speaking for herself as an individual, and she has another agenda, which makes it very difficult, Councilman Alfrey, for me to address that here, which I will not.
Well, then I will. I mean, we're here in the sunshine, and we have to, and it's our job and responsibility and duty to get to the bottom of things. And I understand some former council members that actually sit on the board at this time at Honor America are alleging of improprieties from a former employee that took some of this money. I mean, do you know any knowledge of that?
No, I never saw that money. It was never deposited in our account. Our books are open for anybody that would like to look at them. That money was never given to Honor America.
No, and I have no doubt about that. That is not in question, ma'am. That's not in question. My issue is now you're saying there are 3 estimates, because my understanding, there are 3 written estimates on the scope of the work.
Yes.
Okay, because the internal emails, even from the city of Melbourne, shows that there's one company that really discussed the scope of work at about $20,000.
$26,000.
And you
excuse me.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Without the concrete work on the outside of the building with the rebar. That's the one that said he'd have to get a separate contractor in for that. Herschel came in at $38,000. All right, and then the other one, and then Barnhart. And Barnhart estimate came in doing the concrete
Yeah,
work
it's just
around
stucco work. It's a little bit of stucco work is
Well,
what it is.
I can't, I don't do that work.
And I'm licensed to do that, yes.
But I have to go by what is presented
Understood.
to
Yes,
us.
ma'am.
So it's very difficult, Mr. Barnhart is not here to defend himself as to what he did. This roof at the museum, as you noticed, we have 4 different types of roofing material on there.
And the pictures are there.
Right, and so the city came out and they were on the roof, building department and code enforcement. They were on the roof with Mr. Barnhart and one of his people, and they looked at it and they had no issues other than they need the gutters cleaned. They asked him to do it, and so they did clean the gutters and a few other things that they asked him to do. I gave our city attorney a copy of Mr. Barnhart, what all he did, and with his 7-year warranty on the roof.
What he did is actually here. It's from the building department, which is public record, and it shows that the work, his scope of work completely with his list here is $14,800, which is consistent. It's right here. And as a matter of fact, I'll show you right here.
Well,
it is right here that says, and again, speaking to the building official on several times, it even indicated that he has not justified that work over the $15,800.
The city wrote us a check for $15,000.
Actually got 2 checks, correct?
2 checks that totaled
Yes, ma'am.
$15,000. And then we wrote a check to Barnhart Roofing for the balance of the contract.
Yeah, the 30,000. That's correct, and you did. That's right. But again, the 30,600 is not in question. In question is what the contractor is telling or the city that the work, the whole scope of work is $14,800. And again, I have a third independent, and I'll bring you a statement from him saying he did look at the whole job. He actually evaluated, and it's about $15,000. What I'm saying is, it's not a $30,600 job.
Then I have to question Horschel, who came in and...
Well, we've had a lot of bids in the city that's been way out there, and some, and matter of fact, there was a question before council a few weeks ago that said, why are they so high? That's the nature of the beast. That's why we go with bids. I mean, that's very common.
Well, that's why we had 3.
And again, I think what we're going to find during this is that the $14,800, that is the scope of the work. It is, again, right here on the building permit with the complete list of the work. So in my mind, again, and being a licensed professional, that's about right, about $15,000. But we have $15,800, and you are the president of Honor America. That some of that money should come back to. And I have to speak to you here in the sunshine because I can't contact you because, again, and I personally believe, and I think we need a ruling, it's a conflict of interest for you to be on the board of Honor America accepting money for that board from the city. I mean, that is our building. We just had to pull funding from that, $6,200, because you also sit on that board. Do you not find that a conflict of interest?
That's why we pulled the $6,200 and we didn't ask for it. That $6,200, I can go back in history on this. We did not realize with my being president of the board, which my term will end in October of this year, and I will not be sitting on it. In the past, we've had city mayors who sat on president of the Liberty Bell Museum Honor America, and they were given the money, the $6,200. There was never any question about it. So following the history, Councilman Alfrey, I just followed along with this because it happened for many years.
Well, just because it happened doesn't mean it's right. Because in this instance, if you look at it, that even internal emails indicate that our city staff said they were going to be the project manager on this, and they should because it's our building. However, they were not.
Our contract.
You took it over with Honor America. We allowed the leasee, the renter for $1 a year to handle the contract, the full bid, and the money instead of us.
That's the way our contract is written with the city.
Okay, it's how it's written with the city?
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I have a problem with this whole procedure of what happened. I mean, this is a city asset that we gave money, partial money to fix. No permits were pulled. No inspection done, no follow-up. Not even a follow-up where Honor America goes up there, checks the roof, makes sure everything is done accordingly. There's something wrong there.
Well,
we have to be responsible. This is the money of our citizens. Our staff just, something went wrong.
Well, they were in a tough position because a council member sitting on there, and it's hard to tell.
Policies.
I understand. Well, we have policies and procedures, but when your boss, and out of due respect, Councilwoman Moore, your mere presence on that board cost them money. And there's nothing wrong. I'm recommending and I'm asking you to step down as president. You need to step down as president of that board so they can go about, and you can still work with them and help raise money, but your mere presence costs them money. Again, we had to pull money that would go for maintenance on that building, so it would not be a conflict of interest on an ethical issue. Am I correct, City Attorney?
As Councilmember Moore indicated, they did pull their application for funding this year, and it was based on avoiding a conflict of interest, yes.
And that money would have gone to fix maintenance?
I don't know what the grant application was for.
Well, it is for maintenance. Therefore, we cannot maintain our building because of the ethical and conflict of interest. That makes no sense. Again, it's not about pride. It's about saying, look, we have to do the right thing and what's best for the citizen. And for honestly, Councilwoman Moore, for you to say the roof isn't leaking, you can look at the work right here. It is in color. It's right here, the decking, a 7-year warranty. I mean, it's blistering. I mean,
well, you know, I have not climbed up on the roof, Councilman Alfrey, and I have no business climbing up on a roof. That's why we had someone from the city come out and climb up on the roof, along with the builder, or with the roofer. So I don't know what to tell you on this. Unfortunately, it's a city building. We attempt to maintain it to the best of our ability. The other parts that have been added onto the part that was the city portion of it, these were funds that were raised. Would you like the museum to close? We have no money. We have absolutely no money.
Well, we have the opportunity to get you $8,200, or is it $8,600 back right now?
But you're saying that should be given back to the city.
No, half of it is $15,000. Now understand, again, let's go, we'll go back to my summary. We'll go back here.
I think, you know, I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate the fact that you are in the business, but I also have to look at one roofer talking about another roofer that was incompetent. And I'm not sure where you want me to go with this.
Where I would like you to go, I would like for you to help the taxpayers get their money back. I would like for you to help get this fixed. That's what I'm asking for. I mean, you're saying it's going to close, we have no money. I'm telling you, as a licensed professional, as a Florida certified roofing contractor, as a Florida certified home inspector, we were duped. Okay, we overpaid $15,800. Our building official, who does great work, is trying to get them to justify. Gave them numerous opportunities. They have not. And all I'm asking is, let's get that taxpayer money back. Let's not let our pride get in the way.
That would be just fine. If you can give me direction on how to do that, I will be glad to attempt to do that.
Well, and that's where we have another problem. We have to, this has to be in the sunshine. And that's I would have loved to come to you as an Honor America president and say, hey, could you please help get this back? But I can't.
Well, I realize
Out of respect, I have to come to you and say, look, we have this problem. But I will tell you, and it doesn't matter what other people, former council members are claiming that, and you've had issues with employees there, that somebody ran off with $7,000. I will tell you now, if I find that happen, my next report will be twice as thick, and I will seek full prosecution of the law.
You can do that because...
If I could interject right here, I think we have to be very mindful of the fact that we're working on speculation and
that's correct.
It's all alleged, and you need to be very clear about how we're talking about other people.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We have not named any names.
But I think that, trust me, on this issue of the law, I think it's important to talk in terms of what's alleged.
Oh, I agree, and I am making a statement. And again, I have not named names.
Appreciate that.
And I have made a statement as a former police officer, a retired police officer.
I understand.
That if I find, because again, this is actual Honor America board members alleging this. This isn't just somebody coming off the street. These are former elected officials, several of them, who said this is what happened. Somebody, and it wasn't you, Ms. Moore.
No.
I mean, Honor America is the victim here. They really are. They're a great organization. And when I walked it, it's a lovely place. And I would love to see that museum stay open. And we'll do anything that I can, and I would. But you have to understand here, we were duped. As much as we hate to hear it, our responsibility is to our taxpayers. We have a fiduciary responsibility. And I'm not going to hem and haw about the procedures that we broke, to please you. Nobody meant that. And I don't hold anybody at that. But again, I honestly suggest that you need to think about coming off that board for the sake so we can fund that and help with maintenance there, because it's our asset.
Well, then we have to be very careful, Councilman Alfrey, as to what our agreement with the city is on our contract.
That
Okay.
and I know what that is. We're giving the lease for $1 a year, and Honor America is they are maintaining the building.
Correct.
That is the lease.
Correct.
But do you find an issue ethically with you being on this board and voting for money to go to Honor America?
Actually, at that time, we did discuss it, and it didn't seem to be a problem.
Based on prior,
Based on prior.
years before, former mayors have
Mayor?
been on there.
Yeah,
and-
so it was just,
The city manager would like to say a few things, and
That's
all
what
right.
I was going to ask.
Oh, okay, all right. Mr. McNeese.
What I want to try to do is sort out some of these things and talk about roles and who is responsible to do what and where we are on this. And I'd encourage both the city attorney and Councilman Alfrey, who's been into this, if I get any of these things out of order or mix it up a little bit, please speak up. First, the lease for Honor America, yes, makes them responsible for the major capital of the roof if it were needed. And so they approached the city about, would you cover half of this? And the city agreed, yes, we'll reimburse half. One thing I think that may not be clear to all of the council members is there were no city policies waived or ignored in the bidding, the bidding or whatever the competitive process was to choose a vendor here, because it wasn't the city's project. It was Honor America's project. The city's agreement, the council's agreement with Honor America was, Honor America, you get the work done, because what was represented was there was a contractor that was going to give them a good price. Honor America, you get the work done, the city will pay half in reimbursement as you pay those things. So there was no city bid requirement because it wasn't the city's project. Had we been doing it in-house, we probably would have had to do quotes. I think for that amount of money, it wouldn't have been a bid, but there would have been a formal quoting process. So the work was done. Now, as Councilman Alfrey has said, it was a concern when we learned no permits had been pulled, and so we turned all this over, as he said. He brought what he'd been told, and we turned it all over to our building official to say, get into this thing, find out why permits weren't pulled, why, because the biggest concern about no permit is then there's no inspection. And so, as Councilman Alfrey has said, Steve Ennis, the chief building official, and his people have been into this, and he's related kind of where they are so far. They got to the point where the after the fact permit was applied for and granted, and an inspection has been done, and this this inconsistency has been raised where in the permit application, the value of the estimate of the job is half what was charged. And as Councilman Alfrey has said, Steve Ennis has given the vendor an opportunity to reconcile that. So far, I don't believe that's been done. So so our role in that part of it as the city is as the building department, as protecting the consumer, Honor America, from the practices of the roofer if he hasn't done his job as he's supposed to, in applying for the permit, doing the work to standard, and so that the consumer is protected and gets what they paid for. And that process is ongoing, and whether that can be, it certainly doesn't look like that number can be reconciled. And if it can't, now we kind of get into that place where the city's two roles blend together, because not only do we have this role as the regulator to make sure the contractor's done his job, but it's our building, and we have a role of making sure that that roof is done correctly, because it should have a 20 or however many year life, maybe 30-year life, and we should get our money's worth, as should Honor America. So we're very concerned about the warranty issues, and some of this information that came in tonight about warranty paperwork being delivered is news to me. It's been a couple days since I talked to Mr. Ennis about the status. So here, to sort it all out, here's what I think happens next. We have to resolve this issue of what was that job really worth? What did it really cost? Not what did we pay, but what did it really cost? Was it $14,000? Was it $29,000 or $30,000? And Mr. Ennis is in that, and he's working that. If we find out that there is a gap there where we were charged and Honor America was charged for work beyond what it was worth or what it should have been, then my recommendation, working with the city attorney's office, will be that we partner with Honor America using whatever leverage we have as the building department, whatever leverage we have as the building owner, and whatever leverage we have working with Honor America to go get that money back. And what that exactly looks like, we certainly don't know at this moment, but I mean, it's a lawsuit of some sort. It's an action or a demand, at least starting with a demand letter. But that, we're not quite to that point. But if everything is as it appears today, that's probably going to be the next step. So what I'd say is we'll have to come back to you with those recommendations on next steps, and we'll clearly work with Honor America, and I have no reason to think they won't want to do the same thing. And so that will take its course. The other piece of it is the warranty issue and getting the work done to the point where it is up to standard, it is acceptable, and there is some warranty there that's worth something because we feel like the workmanship is up to speed. That the building department is still working on, as Paul's pointed out with his pictures. There are some things that don't look very good up there, and that process is ongoing as well. That's more our regulatory side. Just fortunately, that benefits us too, since we're the building. We're actually, in some ways, representing or protecting ourselves on that one. The regulator is protecting our interest in the building. So hopefully that helps sort it out a little bit, what will likely happen next, and we'll keep you all in the loop. And I think this process of reconciling the numbers is probably pretty much coming to an end, and it's going to be time to take some action.
And I will concur with that. And the only thing I would add, that a owner of a building doesn't allow the renter to go do contractual work. They're not allowed. I mean, even by law, they're not allowed. So for us to allow Honor America to pay for stuff that we fund money on it's not right. And not to mention, there's no checks and balances. And again, I know you didn't mean it, Councilwoman Moore, but you put our staff in a tough position because you are their boss. We're all their boss. The council is the staff, and our staff does a great job. They want to do their job. And I still feel you on that board, again, puts our staff in a tough position. And I don't care what we used to do, because I can tell you, people used to smoke every day, and it's not popular anymore. But I just want you to be aware of that, you know, I would like to see Honor America and the museum continue on and prosper, but there needs to be some changes. And again, and I'll stick with what the city manager said. You know, I know how this is going to go down, and again, all I'm asking is for that money back. I am not looking to hold anybody under the fire. That's taxpayer money. We have a duty. We have an obligation to our citizens. Not to mention that money can be used somewhere else. We have too many infrastructure needs, et cetera, for that money. And if we were to give their $8,000 back to Honor America, so be it. At least we're getting back $7,400, and that's where I stand. But again, at the end of the day, you have the report. It shows that now, I guess you're saying we have a 7-year warranty on a roof that's failing. As a businessman, I wouldn't want to be in that kind of position, because this work, I want it to be made right. That's it. Us and the citizens deserve what they pay for. And I'll end at that.
Okay. Ms. Minus?
Mayor, I'd like to ask Ms. Moore or the city manager, when was this, the roof done? How long ago was this?
I can answer all that if you'd like.
Mayor, I asked the mayor, the city manager, or Ms. Moore.
To answer you, I have to get out our records. The bids, I think, started in 15, and the work was done in 2016.
Okay.
Actually, it's
My
April
follow-up-
2015.
Mayor,
All right.
my follow-up question is that since this has been paid in full, possibly a year and a half to 2 years,
Yeah.
is this still open that we can go back and ask for a refund, the city manager?
I have to make a correction to what I answered to you. The roof work was completed in April of 2015.
Okay, so it's over 2 years that this has been done.
And to go back?
To go back for 2 years. I mean, I take this as any kind of business deal or any kind of thing you have done that, hey, I'm not satisfied with it. It's 2 years later, and I didn't like what you did. Now, give me part of my money back. You know, I understand everything, and definitely we need to recoup, but it's 2 years later. This is paid in full. It was paid in full. So now we're asking, everything is all messed up and it's not right. Now we want, part of our money back. If we can get it back, that's fine, but this 2 years later. And my 2 cents worth is that this is deeper than on here. You have people going and talking or whatever for their personal gain, and it's stirring up a hornet's nest. And it's not right to bring this back to council with this hornet's nest. If we can get the money back, that's fine, but it's 2 years later. I mean, if I had my car painted and 2 years later, then it's still not right, or, I'm getting spots on it, hey, I paid it in full.
Mayor?
Mr. McNeese.
If I can answer that. Here's where I think two or three things to say probably. Timing wise, the fact that no permit was pulled was based on information given to the building department at the time the work was done. We find out later that that information may not have been completely valid, and that actually permits should have been pulled and actually very recently were pulled. And so we're in it. We're in it in a current way. We're in it today. And so the fact that this investigation of the circumstances has come to light today, if there has been, and here's where I want to be really careful, and Allison will thank me for it, I think. I don't want to start talking about if there was some sort of impropriety, what it might have been or how we might address it. That we need to not start doing here. I think we need to not, well, what if? We need to find out.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is a very minimal duty of ours as the building officials to find out what really happened here and was there some sort of impropriety, since this also involves our money, and if there is, what steps should we take to remedy that? That is actually a current issue, not really a 2-year-old issue. So that we will pursue. I think we are wise to deal with the issues that are ours, which are the permitting of the roof, the inspection of the roof, the enforcement of the contract between the roofer and Honor America, and the protection of our interest in the building and the roof. And the other stuff, if there's some issue that is internal to Honor America, I think we're best left that for them to address in their way. And
I agree. I absolutely
And your
agree.
board, yeah.
And that is correct.
At the board level.
Honor
All right.
America went into this with the very best of interest. Certainly not to shortchange the city in any way. We're just above board on this. We are not out to take money from the city. And unfortunately, the people that have contacted you, Councilman Alfrey, are creating some things for our board, which were very unpleasant for Honor America, over and above the roofing.
No,
All right.
That-
So
and-
so this makes it doubly hard for me to sit here and not begin casting a lot of stones because there's some personality conflicts that were going on. So I would like to, as the city manager said, turn this over to the city, let the city, we will be glad to work with them. Everyone has been paid. There's canceled checks. There is no money outstanding to anyone. So I would like the city to pursue this and have them come back to us and put it as an end tonight.
And I will respond to that.
Excuse me, Mr. Alfrey. Ms. Lopez?
Go ahead.
And
Yes.
then Mr. Alfrey.
Thank you, finally. Before I got elected, I was the president of the Florida Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Once I got elected, I left. And this is a good example why I left. I think that when you deal with money, and especially the money of our citizens, there should not be any conflict of interest whatsoever. And if it's 2 years back, we'll get interest from it. That's all I have to say. So I thank Mr. Alfrey, Councilman Alfrey, for bringing this to our attention, and I think a policy has to change. I think we should put into the policy that if it's a building of the city should take over. They should be responsible for the work. And that's it. And who pays for it, that's another story. It depends on the agreement. But I think from now on, we have to look at every time we give a nonprofit organization a lease where they don't pay rent, we need to possibly do it a month-to-month basis, not 20 or 30 years. And also, the fact that they pay maintenance, but the city governs how it's done. That's how I feel.
And Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
And I will say a couple things. First off, this has nothing to, and I agree with the city manager. This doesn't need to be about speculations or what people are saying, and I get a lot of phone calls. I would assume, Councilwoman Moore, that you would be ecstatic or happy that possibly, as the president of that association, you may be getting $80-something $100 back to a organization who you say is broke.
Well, that would be fabulous.
And instead of, and this is not an attack on anybody, and I think I agree with the city manager, that's a route we need to go to. But this is not about anybody else. This is about what's doing right and following the money and getting that money back for our citizens. And second, if you overpay on your car and find out you bought a $15,000 car and you paid 30 grand, you would be calling them back and say, hey, I overpaid for my car. Can you give that money back? And you would be by law obligated to get your money back. So this is a complete different analogy. I agree, $30,600 was paid. But again, we're talking about for $14,800 worth of work. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, anyone else for the good of the order? All right, seeing none, I'll adjourn the meeting at,
Happy Mother's.
Sorry.
Happy Mother's Day and Grandmother's Day to all the mothers.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, and the same to you.
Yeah, same to you.
Love you, Mom.
All right, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 8:59.